How did I go from zero to a six-figure coaching business? Today, I want to dive into that. Not to flex, but to show what is possible. And even if you're not looking to build a coaching business, the lessons, mindsets, and perspectives can help with any business venture. I've been on this journey for the last 2 years, and I selfishly want to record this episode as a reminder to me of what the journey has been like, but also to just give the lessons and learnings I've had over the last 2 years in case you're looking to start your own coaching business, you're an entrepreneur, and sometimes you need to hear these perspectives and lessons a million times before it finally clicks. Or maybe you're just someone that is curious and wanting to learn more about what it's looked like to build this business. I'm going to share it all with you today. Once again, not to flex, because even saying six figures, I don't take lightly. I'm the guy that used to drive Uber full time for 3.5 years, okay? I am sharing because I truly do believe that speaking my truth, sharing my story can and will impact others out there. And so I hope this episode impacts you today. Now, the very first step in order for me to even start a coaching program, I needed to overcome limiting beliefs. And let me tell you, there were many of them. I had a lot of doubts about being a quote unquote coach. When I heard the word, I just would immediately assume, like, if you're a coach, you're an athlete coach. And if you're not that, what is a coach? I just didn't see a world why people would pay someone to teach them, to guide them. It just didn't make sense, because my mindset then was, yeah, if I need to learn something, I'm going to read a book, I'm going to do a course, but why would I pay someone to teach me this stuff? I could figure it out on my own. I also had this limiting belief about, I'm not Mr. Know-It-All, so why would anyone ever want to work with me? I'm not the expert, so I don't understand. Why would someone want to pay me to work with me? Also was dealing with who would pay for my knowledge, okay? What I learned was, or what I was seeing is, as I grew intellectually, mentally, everything, right? What became common knowledge to me, I forgot I had to learn at some point. And so I just never understood, like, the mindsets, perspectives, lessons, everything that I know in my mind, like, that's just common understanding. Like, everyone knows this, right? Wrong. Because I had to learn it at some point too. So I had to let go of that belief. That goes hand in hand with, if it's obvious to me, isn't it obvious to everyone else? That was a mindset that I had to push through. These were just a few of the many mindsets that I had to let go of and truly tap into what I felt I was called to do to really allow myself to explore this world of coaching. So instead, I changed my mindset to, I'm one step ahead, which puts me in a position to lead. As long as I'm one small step in front of someone, I can lead them, I can guide them. It doesn't mean I'm Mr. Know-It-All. There are other experts that may be 10 steps in front of me. But if I'm one step in front of someone else, I can lead them on this path. Another mindset that I changed was, yes, even though I may be one step in front of them, I'm going to stand beside the client. I'm not going to stand in front of them and point to them and tell them what they need to do. I'm going to stand beside them and guide them through that process. That was a mindset that I had to change, I had to evolve to, that allowed me to accept myself as a coach. I also had to really understand that my experience is valuable. Insert $, $, okay? And it's relevant. My experience can save people time. It can help create people time. It can help them create more energy, motivation, inspiration, feel more peace, all these things that it's really hard to put a $ to, but it is valuable, right? I had to really accept and acknowledge that. So these letting go of some of these mindsets, calling in some of these mindsets, it didn't just happen overnight. It took the last 2 years to work through them. And even still, I have limiting beliefs before I got on a coaching call till this day. And it may be something that I'm always battling. The difference is I've gotten much better at seeing, acknowledging, and letting it go, and then stepping into what I feel is my calling, my dharma, my true north. So the journey of coaching really started for me when it was 2022. And it was something, well, let me take a step back. Before I actually started the coaching program in 2022, the idea of coaching was planted in my mind ever since I got into the personal development journey back in 2016. Because I had heard of coaches, I just didn't understand why anyone would pay someone to work with them. So it took me essentially 6 years of learning, experimenting, changing my perspective, changing my values, evolving as a human, evolving as a man. It took me 6 years of just testing and flowing and learning from myself to finally be in a position where I was like, I feel like I'm ready to step into the world of coaching. I think I have some value that I can give to others. So this all really began on June 3rd of 2022. And I posted a simple Instagram story that said, and I went back in my archive to see what it was. And I said, looking to take on 2 to 3 clients who want to improve their habits. You and I will work one-on-one. This will be an extreme discounted rate before the program launches in a few weeks. I said few weeks. I didn't know when it was actually going to launch, but I wanted it to seem like I knew everything. I said, respond the word growth if interested. Now, the reason I did this was I wanted the path of least resistance. I don't want to build out a formal coaching website with all the program. I knew, just like I had learned with podcasting in my creative career, I just need to get started. And as long as I get started, I will figure it out as I go. So at this time, I had built a social media audience, and I was like, let me just put this little tester out there. Let me see if anyone bites the bait. And if they do, I'm going to give them a discounted rate. I'm just going to throw myself into these calls and figure it out as I go. I'm not going to sit here and try to brainstorm what the program is going to look like when I've never even worked with anyone. I knew I needed to get started. And luckily for me, I had one person who responded, and he was eager to learn and grow. And I had met up with him a few times in person. So the connection just felt authentic. It felt real. And sure enough, we came to an agreement, which was I committed to him. We're going to work together for 8 weeks. We're going to have 30-minute calls. I'm going to charge you $100 per call. It's going to cost you $400 a month. You'll have access to me outside of the calls, and let's get this thing rolling. Now, even when I told him $100 a call, I was like, damn, is he going to pay me $100 for 30 minutes of my time? Like, I just don't see how anyone's going to do that. And he did. And little did I know what my price would evolve to, which I will get to in a little bit. Now, going into these calls, once again, I was just looking for someone to start with, just get rolling, figure it out as I go. I had no game plan. No game plan, no agenda. I essentially was creating exercises as we went. So I would go into these calls very curious. He knew a lot about me. He saw my social media content on habit building, time management, boundaries. He was a young entrepreneur. And so essentially I opened up the call with, what can I help you with? What are your biggest struggles in your life right now? And he would tell me, I have no routines. I'm not consistent in the gym. I feel like I'm unproductive. I'm getting distracted. I'm not eating healthy. And one by one, we would just start working through all of these problems. So what I realized in that 2-month experience was locking in that first client was truly the key. Just like it was recording that first podcast, just like it was running that first mile. I've seen the theme throughout my life. Just do one. Get the first one under the belt and everything else will fall into place. So having him gave me that hands-on experience for me to see I can coach people. I enjoy this. I'm fulfilled by this. And I knew I can navigate these tough conversations because I had 3 years of podcasting experience behind my back, which was me interviewing people and having deep, authentic conversations and navigating, all these personal topics. So I knew I had the ability to do that. On top of, at this point, I had already driven 19,000 rides for Uber, which were literally just one-on-one interviews every day. I knew that I understood people. I knew how to create a space, a container for them to be open, to be honest with me. So I felt good about it. Also working with him, it helped me outline what a transformation could look like. Now, just in 8 weeks alone, there was a massive transformation in him. I remember he was going to bed at like 1 a.m., waking up at 10 a.m. We completely shifted that so that he was going to bed at like 10 p.m., waking up at 7 a.m. We helped him build in better habits. We really completely transformed his life. And so just in that 2-month process, I saw someone go from a lot of indecision, a lot of overwhelm, a lot of unclear on when to do what, to this person who was much more aware of his time. He had created boundaries that were keeping him on track. He was following through on the important habits and routines that he knew were beneficial to him. I saw the transformation, which helped me outline it. And this really provided me insight on common challenges of my potential client, which I knew I could use as the marketing copy and content for attracting more people like him. I knew without a question of a doubt, even though I didn't have anyone else knocking on my door, I knew that if he was struggling with these problems, there was no question about it. There were others out there that existed. And now all I needed to do was take everything I had learned in just that 2 months of working with him, create some high-level copy, and really try to figure out what is the transformation, how do I get people from A to B, what does that vehicle look like, and where do I find these clients? And that's all of this process is what led me to hiring my first business coach. I hired my friend Zach Kravitz, and this was someone that I had met in 2018. Now, it was 2022 when I hired him, so I had 4 years of being aware of Zach and communicating with Zach. At that point, we had recorded 2 solo podcasts. I had been on his podcast. He had been on a group episode with me. We met up a few times in person. Like, there was a relationship that was built. I had full trust in him. And because of that, when I was thinking about wanting to hire a coach to help me, right, help me build my business, not only did I want to hire a coach to help me build my business, but I had also read a book at the time called The Prosperous Coach, I think is what it was. And essentially it was like, if you're starting your coaching business and you're trying to convince people to pay you money and time to coach them, don't you think you should be like also working with a coach? And I was like, okay, that's fair. Like, I should probably have at least some experience working with a coach to then pitch people like, yeah, coaching is worth the money and time, and here's how it worked for me. If I didn't have that, people would be like, why am I going to hire you when you've never hired anyone for yourself? So I realized this, and I saw what Zach was doing, and I knew that he was the right fit because I had seen the business he had built for himself, a digital creator who built a 6-figure plus business for himself. And he had just launched his one-on-one coaching program. So I hit him up. We had a conversation. It felt right. There was literally no question about it that this was the right fit. So I committed to working with him, even though there were so much money mindset beliefs that I had to overcome. Like, the thought of paying him at the time $2,500 a month for a minimum of 3 months was like, whoa. Like, I'm committing $7,500 over the next 3 months to this guy, and I've never paid anyone for their time before. Like, all right, like, let's see how this goes. But at the same time, I knew that was a limiting belief because I knew he had the knowledge that I needed in order to build my business. And very quickly after committing to working with him, I saw the return on investment within weeks. I remember when I was starting to work with him, I think by the call 3 or 4, it was already clear this was the right program. But I remember when I was locking in that first client, maybe it was after the first client, I was getting ready to start rolling in new clients, and Zach had me sign a contract. I didn't have my first client signed a contract. And so essentially I was like, whoa, I need a contract for my clients. And I went to Zach and I said, we have this same coaching method. I'm building my program on the back of yours. Would you be okay? Would I have your permission to take your contract, modify it to my name, and use it for my clients? And he's like, yeah, absolutely. And just in that moment alone, I was like, this was easily maybe a $500, $1,000 resource that he had to pay a lawyer to write up. And he gave it to me for free. And I saw just in that moment alone, I'm like, I'm already getting my return on investment just from this contract alone, not on top of the knowledge and the expertise and the encouragement I'm getting from him. So it was just so clear that this was the right fit. I'd go on from originally like 12-week commitment to spending the next year working with him, which by far, looking back on it, working with him was a game changer. It set me up to literally crush the next year, 2 years up to where I'm at present day. Because ultimately working with him, I was able to condense what I think would have taken me 5 years to learn on my own to all within a year. And I was able to lean on him for support. So that was a huge, huge right step in building my coaching business. So as I'm working with him, I've officially launched my program. I go from just launching via IG story, like, hey, does anyone want to work with me, to full blown, hey, I'm a coach. Here's my coaching program. Here's my website. Here's a landing page. Come work with me. So this was literally just 2 months after I onboarded that first client. So after I'm offboarding him, I'm starting this official launch. What's also really important to know, and I'm sharing this for transparency so you can hear and see how I literally worked through the limiting beliefs as I went, because if I don't share the actual numbers of the program, you'll have no context to kind of how this worked for me. Originally it was $400 for 4 calls a month, 30-minute calls with the first client. And then going to relaunch it. I have some encouragement to increase the price from Zach. And I'm ready to lean into my limiting beliefs. I know my value, I know my worth. I saw the transformation for him. It's going to be worth more to others. So I decided to charge 3x the rate, which was $1,250 per month. A lot of money. Still is a lot of money, but even looking back at that moment, it was like, whoa, $1,250 per month. And I was going to instead give 1-hour calls instead of 30-minute calls. Not too long after I launched this official program, I locked in 5 clients. I was working full-time at Liquid IV. I had 5 full-time clients, and my social media was growing on the side as well. And I was like, we're doing it. I am a coach. I'm Coach Bobby. Let's go. And this was a huge validation for me because I was so nervous to even start coaching. I was really hesitant with even charging $100 a call. And now I was charging $1,250 per month. I couldn't believe that I was actually getting clients to say yes. And this was really, really important. So from August 2022, when I really officially launched that program, through the end of the year, new clients kept coming in. And I really built my program on the back of the program that Zach had built for himself. I saw what was working for him. I liked the structure. So I created the same program for me, which was essentially a 12-week commitment or 90-day program. And the reason for that is 2 things. One is, on average, it takes 66 days to break a habit. 90 days is a great period of time to really completely change mindsets, beliefs, routines, habits, etc. Anything less, you're not really able to deep dive into the program with people. Anything more, it may feel like too much of a commitment. So 90 days was the perfect number. It also was great for me because I wasn't going to need to go looking for new clients every other day. If I locked someone in, I knew they were locked in for minimum 3 months, which really excited me because it gave me room to breathe. So it was 12 weekly calls over that 90 days for 1 hour each. They had text, voice memo communication with me during office hours outside of the calls to help coach them through anything that was coming up. They also had a custom Notion dashboard with recorded calls, homework, etc. And then essentially I had weekly exercises that were custom to them to help drive change, which I was creating in real time on these calls. And I went heavy for the rest of 2022, just building, putting in the reps with these clients and trusting the process that I would become a better coach with time. 2023 came, and at the start of it, I was realizing that the value of the program was clear. I had a list of testimonials of people that were saying the program had transformed them, it was working. My website had all these different videos of clients I had worked with, and so it was time for me to lean into another limiting belief, which is I can get more for this program. My time is valuable. I know the value the problem that I'm helping solve for these clients is valuable. It's time to raise the stakes. And so I then doubled the price to $2,500 per month, which I couldn't believe. I'm like, $2,500 a month? Is anyone going to pay me for this? I am so nervous, but let's see what happens. And nervous at first, but completely just shocked when I got that first client to say yes and ask, what's the best payment? How can I pay for this? How can I get started? My money mindset expanded. I realized I was more capable than I thought and that the value I was creating was actually worth money to people. I was breaking habits. I was creating more time for people. I was transforming people's lives. That was transforming how they showed up in their business, in their personal life. They were feeling better about themselves. It was valuable to people. And it was really, really setting people up for success. How clients were finding me during this period of time and how they find me present day, fortunately, it was all organic growth through social media. So when I was starting the program in 2022, at that point, I had 6+ years of creating content, podcasts, YouTube videos, Instagram, TikTok, newsletters, you name it. And it just so happened that right around the time of me starting my coaching program is when my TikTok and Instagram blew up. It was an incredible time in my social media growth. This is when short form content was really, really growing, and I went all in on it. I had grown my TikTok from about 40,000 people to north of 280,000 followers within about 8 months. My Instagram grew from 9,000 followers to 100,000 followers in 3 months. really looking back on it, it was the right place at the right time. People were really diving into the short form content, and it was supply and demand. There was such a high demand for the content, but there was not enough creators to really meet the demand, which meant that any content that was posted got amplified. And so the reach capabilities was so much different just 2 years ago than it is today. And I was able to capitalize on it. And really, this was a moment that I capitalized on all the years of podcasting, script writing, recording audio, YouTube vlogging. It combined everything. TikTok and Instagram, I was crushing with the B-roll voiceover type content. And it was just so beautiful to see the 6 years of podcasting work was now benefiting me as I was translating it to the short form content game. What was really important during this time too was, and with the help of Zach, I launched my first free digital course, my Master Your Minute, which still is my #1 lead magnet. I've had over 3,000 students come through the program. And this really helped people not only find me through social media, but allowed them to see me as a coach, a free resource that helped them transform themselves. It solved one problem, but then unlocked another one, which was then the program that I had to offer. And so that was a huge, huge step in helping my coaching journey, was creating that free master course. Now, I want you all to understand that along this journey, even up to the 2023 mark, and then even up to present day, I haven't always been at full capacity with my program. There have been times with just one client or maybe 2 clients, and there have been times where I have 5 or 6. It kind of just influxes and flows, and I've had to learn how to be unattached to that. Obviously, there are different strategies and things that I'm even testing present day to try to keep that more abundance, because I want 5 to 6 clients at any given time with a list of people that are like, Bobby, I want to work with you. Let me know when you're available. But to be transparent and be honest with you all, like, it hasn't always been sunshine and rainbows. There are lulls in it. And so it's been kind of this thing where I've had to remind myself to just keep going and trust the process and doing whatever I need to do to get by. And that's where brand partnerships revenue has been crucial to helping me get by even during those slow times. I'm not going to get into the brand partnerships stuff today. I really wanted to just focus on the coaching, but that's also been a huge, huge lever in my business. So 2023 all the way till a few months ago, rinse and repeat. I just kept repeating the same process, bringing in new clients, taking them through a 3-month transformation with consistency. I was getting better as a coach. And then a few months ago, once again, I'm hitting this wall where I'm just seeing the value of what I'm doing for these clients. And I'm just like, I feel like I could make more money doing this. I'm seeing the value. I have 20 plus testimonials at this point of all the clients I've worked with and how I've transformed them. I'm also reading this book at the same time called Value-Based Fees, which is teaching me as a coach and consultant to create a fee based on the value I create for others. That in of itself is another conversation for another day. But I came to the realization that the value I was bringing was far more worth than $2,500. And so once again, I challenged myself to double the price to $5,000 per month. About 2.5 months ago, I pitched that first client. Hey, he asked, what's the cost of the program? Without hesitation, straight face, I said, it's $5,000 per month or $15K all in for 3 months. Kept a straight face. He said, that sounds great. Let me know what the next step is. And I had to just keep a straight face because I could not believe that he was ready and willing to pay. And looking back on it, as I mentioned in this podcast, and as many of you know, I used to be an Uber driver. Just in 1 month alone, from one client at $5,000, I was now going to be making more money than I made as an Uber driver driving 200 hours a month. I was making more with 1 call a week with one client than I was making times four calls in a month than I was making across almost 200 hours in a whole month. And I share that to just remind those out there that are in that hustle right now, your value will come. Keep going, okay? Now, the reason I don't publicly share this pricing, right? That everything I've shared today, you won't see this on my landing page. You won't be able to publicly find this. A couple of reasons. One, there's a lot of limiting beliefs around money. As I've shared, even hiring my first coach, and not from a scamming kind of way, but when I share the price of the program, I share it with people on the call because I want to help people work through that limiting belief that I had to work through myself. And I try to help them see like where the value is at and how this program is going to actually make them more money. It's worth the money. So I don't share that because people would be hesitant to apply to my program if they need the money, the cost of it up front. And I want to help people break those beliefs. I also too, as I've shared, my price has gone up 3 times since I started technically. I don't want my pricing to be public because it's going to continue to change. And I don't want people to see, oh, well, on that blog post, it was $2,500 a month, but now you're charging $5,000. Like, that's not what I signed up for. I just want to eliminate that. And once again, the only reason I've decided to share these numbers on this podcast today is to be fully transparent. Because honestly, looking back, this is the podcast I wish I could have listened to on day one of starting my coaching business. And even if you're not trying to start a coaching business, maybe you're an entrepreneur, maybe some of this is still resonating. Maybe you wanted to learn more about me and how my program was built. So I have shared the pricing because it's so important to the transparency of how I built it into a 6-figure business. Now, the biggest struggle, one of the biggest struggles that I've had to overcome along the last 2 years of building this program is shiny object syndrome. There are many possibilities to grow my business. I could write a book. I could host a retreat. I could create show form content. I could record podcasts like this. I could produce YouTube videos. I could host group coaching calls, et cetera, et cetera. Very overwhelming. I've come to realize that I can do it all. I just can't do it all at once. So with that in mind, it's helped me create more peace within me because I know I'm not going to try balancing 15 plates at one moment in time. I'm not going to try writing a book while hosting my first retreat, while doing group coaching calls, while recording these podcasts, making short form content. I can't do it all. I will literally lead to burnout, and that's what I try to help clients do, avoid burnout. So as of today, my focus on my business is really just 3 things. Number one is it is my one-on-one coaching business. It's either my 90-day program, which I've been running for 2 years, or I recently launched my scheduled mastery session, just a one-off 90-minute session for clients that maybe just need a little fine tune-up and keep going on with their lives. I have that. My next thing is my men's retreat, which I'm hosting for the first time here in Austin, November 13th through the 17th, 14th through the 17th, which I am so incredibly excited about. It's going to be 6 men, small, intimate. We're going to go through a lot of the stuff that I discuss in coaching and really help these guys optimize and create a life by design where their personal and professional goals are in alignment. Private chef on staff, workshops, group exercises, workouts, meditation, you name it. If that's of interest, please, please, please apply. We got about 5 spots left right now, and that will be here before you know it, and I can't wait. And then the third and final piece is creating live experiences for people. Just this past weekend, I hosted a coffee and cold plunge men's meetup here in Austin with 2 other co-facilitators. That was incredible. We had about 20 other guys show up. We're hosting our next one in Austin on September 21st, which I'm fired up on. And then that evening, I also hosted a men's dinner for 6 guys, and I had everyone come in. The prompt was, who's a mentor? Who's been a mentor in your life, and what's the biggest lesson they've taught you? We had steak, sweet potatoes, peppers. It was an incredible experience. But the live experience is another component of my business that I'm focusing on. I'm not thinking about anything else until it makes sense, but those are the pillars that I'm focused on, and that's helped me avoid the shiny object syndrome. Now, earlier this year when I actually hit this milestone of hitting 6 figures, huge pat on my back, and not something that I take lightly. There's going to be a day when I hit 7 figures. That'll be great. There'll be a day when I hit 8 figures. It'll be great when it comes, but I'm just happy to be where I'm at right now, and I'm trusting the process. But on top of everything I shared today, I do want to share just 6 lessons that I learned and hope that these really help or resonate with you. Number one is the value I create is worth more than I can imagine. As you've heard in this episode today, like the $400 a month to the $1,250, the $1,250 to the $2,500, the $2,500 to $5,000. I had to push through beliefs that the value I was creating was worth that. And in the book, Value-Based Fees by Alan Weiss, which I mentioned earlier, he said that if saying the price doesn't scare you, you're not charging enough. And that's what gave me the permission to go from 25 to 5,000. And I've had to continuously remind myself the value I create is worth more than I can imagine. And I'm constantly reassessing what's the value and what is my worth and what should I be charging for it. Number two is if the price doesn't scare me, I'm charging too little, just like I just shared with the quote from Alan. Number three, focus on doing my best with the work in front of me right now. It's very easy to allow my mind to think about all the other things I need and want to do. Even just recording this podcast, I could allow my mind to drift to all the other things I could possibly be doing right now. But that doesn't matter. The work that matters right now is this podcast. And after I get off this podcast, the work that will matter is writing the short form script that I plan on writing. And then, tomorrow or when I have my next coaching call, when that comes up, the next thing that will matter is that coaching call. It's really dropping into the present moment and doing the best work that I can do right here, right now. And this is really inspired by Charlie Munger, who is a co-founder of Berkshire Hathaway alongside Warren Buffett. And he talked about it in the book that I'm reading right now. And he really just hits on just do the best work with what's in front of you and take it one task at a time. Number four is referrals are the best way to acquire clients. As I've said, I've gotten clients as of right now or all organically through my social media content. I'm definitely going to be testing ads and some other routes to getting new clients, but that's been the best way for me to acquire clients through social media. And part of that is people recommending friends to go look at my content. So whether that's past clients of mine saying you need to check out Bobby's program, or, oh, I hear what's happening with you. You need to check out this guy, Bobby. I think his content will resonate with you. And then that's led them to working with me. Easier said than done, but it's trusting that referrals really is the way. And it has been really rewarding to me. Number five, make the program so valuable that clients think that was worth every dollar. I recently implemented a money-back guarantee into my coaching program. This was inspired by Alex Hormozi, which essentially is it's a 12-week program. If after the fourth week you are not finding value in the program, I will give the money back. As long as you've been doing the work that we set for you to do each and every week, if you're not feeling like this is the right fit, you can have your money back. I was only able to actually add that because one, I knew it would create this safety net for people to just push themselves through the limiting belief of, is the money worth it? Is this going to be the right program? Just take the step. You got 4 weeks to figure it out. If it doesn't work, all good. But I knew that I could do this because every client that I've worked with, I've seen the value in them and they've communicated the value. And I've taken their feedback and adjusted my program based on their experiences. So it's really about over-delivering. Once again, Alex Hormozi hits on Grand Slam offers. And I tried and I have created what I would call a Grand Slam offer in every aspect of my coaching business. And the sixth and final lesson, everyone's path is different. It's actually very easy for me to see what's happening with my buddy Zach, who I used to work with for a year. I stopped working with him about a year ago. It's very easy for me to see what he's doing and thinking that if I don't do it the way he's doing it, then I'm doing it wrong. Or, I have a good idea of kind of like what his, program looks like, how many clients he's working with, the wait list to work with him. I could easily allow myself to think if I don't do it like Zach, I'm doing it wrong, or, I'm doing something wrong because it's not getting the same results as I know it is for him. But I have to remind myself everyone's path is different. What works for me may not work for him. What works for him may not work for me. And that allows me to be in this playful state of just testing, learning, growing, and just dancing through the business and trying to figure things out as I go. I can take lessons and learnings not only from him and other people I hear in podcasts, books, other coaches that I know, whatever, but I have to remember it's still my journey. So with that in mind, I mentioned them twice in this podcast, but just to really make sure if you're interested, the two key resources that I would really recommend. It's really three, but two people specifically. Number one is Alex Shimozy. I would really recommend his book, 100 Million Offers and 100 Million Leads. Both incredible resources that have completely transformed me as an entrepreneur, coach, and building my business. And the other one is Value-Based Fees by Alan Weiss. If you read these three books, and I would recommend reading the physical while listening to the audio and noting as you go through, you are going to be a better business person. You're going to be a better coach. It is going to unlock a lot of beliefs and show you the roadmap of how to get more for what you're creating and doing. So I would really, really recommend you check those out. I hope this episode has been really valuable. I really appreciate you all listening. If you did find even just one sentence that was valuable, all that I ask is please screenshot this episode, post it to your Instagram story, tag me at Bob-A, B-O, 3 B's, 4 A's and a Y. Share out the episode on your IG story. It's the best way to support the show. It costs $0 to listen, but it costs a lot of time to make them, and I do love them. But please, the support when you guys and gals reshare it means the world. So if you found any value in this episode, share it out. Maybe a friend of yours in your community can hear or could need this episode, and if they see you repost it, maybe it'll give them the green light to go listen. Other than that, thank you all for tuning in. I will see you all on the next one. It's the Bearded Man Podcast.